Hello and welcome to Qtr Time podcast in partnership with Lovell Netball. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P. And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed. As listeners of the pod will know, we are passionate about netball and women's sport, so it's really disappointing to hear that 3 in 5 girls skip sport on their period due to fear of leaking.
However, our friends at Modibody have teamed up with Puma to launch their brand new super absorbent leak-proof 2-in-1 active shorts. The shorts hold up to 2 to 3 tampons worth of blood, meaning that you can wear them to stay active at any time of the month. And the added bonus is that they are super flattering and make you look like a total athlete. They even make me look like an athlete, which is saying something.
As sponsors of the podcast, Modibody are delighted to offer our listeners an exclusive 15% discount at modibody.com if you use the code Qtr Modibody. You can find all the T's and C's and the code in our podcast notes, so go check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome.
That was such a sad hello.
Yeah, I know. It is a sad hello, Lucy. It's a very sad occasion, okay? This is our final episode of Netball World Cup coverage. Luce, can you actually believe it's the end?
You know what? I genuinely can't. Like, I'm good to go. Let's start again on Monday.
Today is Monday.
Let's start again on Tuesday. I'm ready to go. Let's do it all again.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think these last couple of weeks have just been incredible. I know we've said it before, but it really is netball heaven. I cannot believe we have to wait another 4 years. Ugh. That seems like
unreasonable,
an actual crime. It's just been amazing, you know, all the things that we've been able to do over the last couple of weeks, you know, all the messages that we've received from people, all the interviews, just getting to speak to all the players and coaches. It's amazing. There aren't enough words to describe how cool it's been.
Well, like whenever we've chatted to anyone who's come up to us in the arena, we say to them every single day is a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration. Like, I feel so privileged and so blessed to have had this opportunity and living my best life right now.
Yeah, and the tournament itself delivered. You know, like it wasn't just like, oh, we all watched some netball and had a great time. Like it was actually fantastic, interesting storylines. Like it was a dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for the final time, let us know what's coming up today, Luce.
Yes, so today we are going to be reviewing the whole of the Netball World Cup 2023 with a particular focus on the finals and the top 6 teams. We're going to start by running through each of the teams in order of their finishing position from 16th all the way up to 1st and highlight the key talking points, discuss how they performed in terms of expectations that we had of them ahead of the competition, and of course any standout performers, of which there are many.
Many.
We'll also take a detailed look at the bronze and gold medal matches, including a summary of some key stats and analysis from an epic couple of matches.
Yeah. Oh, and that 5th-6th game as well. We're going to talk about that. It's just amazing. But before we dive in, just a reminder that we are using the official champion data stats, and there were a few teething problems with them at the start of the competition, so you may need to take a few of them with a pinch of salt, but we still feel it's quite important to reference them as they do give an overall picture of the tournament from an individual and team perspective. If you aren't sure about any of the definitions for terms, then we're going to link to Champion Data's website. And if you hover over the column heading for each stat, it gives a little description of what it relates to. So do check that out if you're interested and message us if there's anything you're not sure about. Mm-hmm. So without further ado, Luce, do you want to kick us off with the first team we'll be reviewing?
I do, but I don't because it's the last one, but we'll get stuck into it. So first off then, in 16th position was Sri Lanka, who finished one below their last Netball World Cup finish. It was a bit of a tough tournament for them. They had the second highest general play turnovers of any team, so probably lacking a bit of the clinicality that we'd expect from teams competing in a World Cup. They did manage one win, 60-56 over Barbados, which was pretty interesting. But apart from that, they just weren't able to be consistent enough across all 4 quarters. I think one of the main things for them to consider is just really getting the finesse on the feed and the endurance and the work rate up defensively particularly. They do have a couple of tall target goal shooter options, but they need to be putting the ball into the right place. And if they can do that, then I think they'll come on really well.
Yeah, it was good in patches, but they just couldn't quite string it together fully enough to get those results. Yeah. And obviously, I think their coach was quite disappointed to finish lower than they did at the last World Cup. But moving on to Singapore, who finished in 15th, which is actually one better than their last Netball World Cup finish. I just really love the shooting combination of Kai Wei To and Amandeep Chahal. They were the go-to pairing for Singapore. I think they played all of their matches. And Singapore actually had 2 wins and 1 loss within 5, which at a Netball World Cup is a very solid effort from a side ranked 28th in the world. But their focus will need to be on keeping the group together and just getting them more match play opportunities throughout the year. They are a really young side, the second youngest in the competition, in fact, but so much potential from this group.
Yeah, 100%. And that last win that they had, just the emotion and the elation on court afterwards was amazing. And I completely agree about Chahal. She was sensational. Moving on then, in 14th was Barbados, which was 2 below their last Netball World Cup finish. So I'd say a bit of a mixed bag for Barbados. They beat Zimbabwe by 17 goals in the group stage, but then lost by 27 goals 4 days later. So again, that inconsistency just coming up for the lower ranked sides. We, of course, saw Sasha Corbin's retirement and a really emotional finish for her and Kadeen, as it's the last time that they'll ever take to court together. And if you haven't watched it already, go onto our Instagram page. There's a lovely little reel where we did an interview with the two of them, only sort of 3-4 minutes long, but it is so heartwarming and a really good watch.
Yeah.
I think Barbados are just missing, again, that consistency across all 4 quarters. They kept really close in the first half of their final game against Zimbabwe, but it was a 22-7 third quarter that was just the death of them. And the coach mentioned in post-match interviews that fatigue really played a role for them, and I think you could see that on court.
Yeah, I do completely agree with that, and I think it was just towards the end of the competition that they just didn't really have enough left to continue that momentum. But again, some nice stuff from them. I think they played better in the first half of games in the main. Moving on then to 13th, which was Zimbabwe, finishing 5 below their last Netball World Cup finish. They started slow in the competition, and unfortunately the loss to Fiji really killed them, as they weren't able to get out of their initial group, and that capped the highest place that they could finish. They did obviously do that, winning their last 3 matches to finish on a high, and 13th was the best they could do at that stage. I have to say, Elizabeth Mashaw, the 22-year-old goalkeeper, she made her debut in the competition. She was fantastic. She topped the list for gains and deflections after their last game on day 8. And just the way she was able to come around the body cleanly, she's just got such a talent. I was very, very impressed by her. Also, Nalani Makunde, who's the shooter for Zimbabwe who lives in Australia. She's playing state league over there. She was very, very strong. I really feel they need to build that attacking end around her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this result from Zimbabwe and the losses that they did face in the competition means they may not go back up to 12th in the world rankings. So Zimbabwe players won't be eligible for a visa to play in the Netball Super League, but this is obviously still yet to be confirmed.
Oh man, that would be absolutely devastating if so, because, the likes of Mashaw, like if they could come over, I think it would elevate their game to a completely different level. In 12th position then was Trinidad and Tobago, which is 3 below their last Netball World Cup finish. Overall, I think it's probably fair to say it was a bit of a disappointing competition for TNT. They only had 1 win, which is the same as the number of wins they had at Commonwealth Games last year. And if it hadn't been for a disastrous final quarter from Singapore on day 2, they could have had an even worse finish. So kind of got off a little bit lightly there. They had the highest number of general play turnovers of any team, and the attack end just could not reward the defensive efforts. We also found out as well during the competition that Shaquanda Green-Noel, one of our fan favourites, is stepping away from netball temporarily, wanting to spend more time with her family, focus on her business. So wishing her all the best, as she's going to be sorely missed, isn't she, Liz?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's critical to that side, and actually when she wasn't on the court, they did suffer. They didn't win enough ball defensively to compensate for the errors they were making in attack. So, moving on to Fiji, who finished in 11th, 3 above their last Netball World Cup finish and 8 places above their world ranking.
Fiji.
Go Fiji. They actually managed to beat 2 teams ranked above them, so that's going to do wonders for those ranking points. Una Raluni was a standout in the goal attack position. I know I've been banging about her about the whole competition, but they really suffered when she was rested for a couple of games due to injury. And defensively, Fiji won lots of ball with Nawai Thao and Dee Bolokoro. I mean, she's playing netball amazingly at the age of 37.
Yeah.
Love that.
Love it.
Absolutely love that. But they just need to work on their connection in the midcourt and the transition play, as they were guilty of losing the ball a few times when they had turned it over, got a bit excited and then would spill the ball again. But really impressed that they actually set their sights ambitiously on 10th place and only fell 1 short. And they're my new favourite team, as the coach is so lovely. She's so sweet.
Yeah, they were such a joy to watch, weren't they?
Big up Fiji.
Yeah. In 10th position then was Scotland, who finished 1 above their last Netball World Cup finish. Really impressed by different elements within the Scottish setup, that particularly the midcourt. I think Emma Love came on really, really well as such an inexperienced player in the Thistle side, such a youngster as well. I thought she was really great for them. However, we've said it before, we'll say it again, shooting percentage was an issue for Scotland. And in the playoff game against Wales, Scotland shot at 69%, which is just, that's never going to win you games. And they lost every quarter against Wales. And I think this match in particular was quite disappointing, given that they'd been a lot closer in the warm-up matches that they had before the competition. We know the World Cup qualifier final match was really spicy, really fiery, but they just fell short on this occasion. I do think the shooters just need a bit more time, like particularly the likes of Emma Barry. Like the last World Cup, she was 17.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like she's still so young. But all the ingredients are there for Scotland to take their game to the next level in the upcoming cycle if they can keep hold of Tamsin Greenway, who, and obviously Sarah Francis Bayman, who I think will be critical. We saw the retirement for Claire Maxwell as well, the most capped player. Huge congratulations to her on an incredible career. She's another one who's going to be sorely missed. And if you haven't seen it as well, we also did a cheeky little bonus episode with Tamsin and Emily Nicol, just talking about the Scottish setup, ambitions, professionalisation, etc. It's a really interesting watch. So yeah, go over to our Instagram page or on a podcast. We released it as well as a bonus episode. So check it out.
Yeah, I really liked what Tamsin was saying. She said some really interesting things about how England can help the other home nations. So definitely worth a listen. Moving on then to Wales, who finished in 9th and obviously did not qualify for the 2019 Netball World Cup, so we're very thrilled to be qualifying in first position this time round. 3 wins overall for Wales. Not a bad effort considering the pool of death and just how many tough matches they had at the start of the competition. That was something we referenced in the preview episode. It was just like game after game after game against top 5s. But they were able to finish strong with that win over Scotland. Welsh netball, I think it's in a great place at the moment with young players coming through. Nancy Cootie was another one that we really liked. They kind of at the moment have a set 7, but they need to do some more work on building that depth and getting exposure and match play for the squad players. We didn't see any of them take the court against Scotland in the last game, which I was surprised by. They stuck with the 7 throughout. I do think Yarrington had a great tournament, good volume and work rate for her, and I think she's starting to become a bit of a big game player, and Wales really need to utilise that. And again, we did a really lovely interview with Emily Handyside and Claire Jones, so you can check that out on our Instagram page and in our podcast.
Yeah, I really hope Yarrington gets a full-time contract for Super League next season, because from memory, she was only a training partner last year.
I think so, yeah. She didn't get a huge amount of court time in the Super League, but she has really stood up for Wales.
Yeah, I love her. Absolutely love her. In 8th position then was Tonga, who obviously didn't qualify in 2019, so sort of bursting onto the scene for them. So many standout players, but first up has to be Halita Veve. I am praying that she gets a full-time SSN contract because she was sensational. Check this out. She was 2nd in the leaderboard for interceptions after day 8 as a centre. 2nd for interceptions as a centre.
Unreal.
Absolutely unreal.
It's her rangy arms.
Yeah,
They get there, it's just an absolute menace.
Absolute menace. Just start calling her Dennis. Unique Pahlavi as well was another real standout. A lot of people calling for her to be contracted to SSN as well next season. Also Kalia Ayongi, who's signed for ANZ next season, obviously leaving the Swifts. Really keen to see how she goes next season, but she was great to watch. Their highest score was only 56, so they're not necessarily a high volume team, but they won so much ball defensively, which really slowed down the game for their opposition. I think for them, more time together will be absolutely critical. They're spread across 9 different cities, so really tough to get enough consistent time as a group. But genuinely, like, watch out, everyone, because they are coming for you. And I think the thing that I love most about this Tonga side and watching them play and the post-match interviews is what Monya Gerard said about the kind of spiritual aspect to it. And you could see it with the crowd and the singing that they were doing, the way they all rallied around each other. And Bryony Akel also referenced it in the post-match interview about how it's their culture that really sort of spurred them on and saw them through. And I just love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of eyebrows were raised when they went to 7th in the world, having not played some of the other top nations.
Mine included.
But I mean, this just proves that they deserve that ranking. I mean, finishing 8th, missing out to Malawi. I think they kind of just ran out of legs a little bit in that last game, which was a real shame. But they stood up to the test, you know, and they didn't falter at any point throughout those initial rounds. Next up then is Malawi, who finished in 7th, which is one below their last Netball World Cup finish. I actually think between Uganda and Malawi, Uganda are in much better form at the moment. Malawi didn't manage to win a quarter against Uganda on day 8, although the first quarter was a draw. I'm just not sure what's going on with Malawi. I don't know if it was the off-court issues following that 23-goal loss to England on day 2 that kind of impacted the team. They did seem to gel a bit more as the competition went on, but there was some kind of sense of unease, I would say, within the camp that kind of translated onto some of their performances not quite being top-notch. They do have superstars with the likes of Nkumbo, Mvula, Kumwenda, Luwazi, but they don't quite have coverage across all the positions and so need that kind of greater depth to have more options to turn to if the games are tight. Also believe that Luwazi has announced her retirement.
No.
I know, so gutted. Age 31 after 3 World Cups, which is such a shame as we absolutely loved her. She was a massive contender for mid-quarter of the tournament and I think she's going to be sorely missed.
I think she should have won mid-quarter of the tournament.
Yeah.
As much as I love Kate Heff, I thought Luwazi was incredibly hard done by.
Yeah, she played so many minutes, was so consistent, right up the top there for feeds and goal assists, yeah, everything. I love the way whenever she would take an interception, she would like grab onto the ball and like hug it to her chest. It was iconic. And I just think she was the glue that held that team together when things got tough. And yeah, really fantastic international career for her.
Yeah, she will be sorely missed. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at the top 6 teams, including the bronze and gold medal matches.
So loose, the Netball World Cup is here. And as you know, I simply could not be more excited.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. It's the biggest event of the netball calendar. And what better way to show your support for the Roses than by heading to lovellnetball.co.uk and picking yourself up some of the Roses fanwear.
Oh, of course. And I actually have this, okay, this is a bit embarrassing, but I have this weird superstition that when I watch England play, I have to be wearing some kind of kit, like a top or a hoodie or something. Otherwise, I convince myself that if they don't win, it was all my fault.
Oh my God, that is literally insane. But at least you and our listeners can get 15% off at lovellnetball.co.uk with the code NETPOD15 until the end of August.
Amazing. Happy shopping, guys.
Okay, getting back to business. In 6th position, we had South Africa, who finished 2 below their last Netball World Cup finish, obviously making semi-finals last time. Not quite able to repeat that this time. Norma Plummer cited a lack of time with her players as part of the reason for finishing in 6th, which I think is absolutely fair enough. She made a lot of references in multiple post-match interviews, actually, about changing the format of the competition so that the top 8 teams can play each other. And she said that they had the harder side of the draw, which, I mean, inclined to agree with to an extent. You know, they had Jamaica, they had Uganda.
But I still don't think if they had played Australia that they would have beaten them.
No, I completely agree. But I also don't know if this top 8, bottom 8 format is quite the right thing. I think it does an injustice to those who are sort of on the fringes. Yeah, on the cusp. But I think there was a lot of pressure on South Africa as well, which I think you have to acknowledge. Cecilia Molokwane, the president of Netball South Africa, was quite vocal in the fact that they will make the podium and they will make finals. And I think putting that on them was a little bit unfair, particularly when you look at the other squads that they were coming up against. Like, there's some fierce competition. I think they were always potentially going to struggle. I just don't think they quite had the personnel to really be able to challenge those top sides, and losing Lilise was a huge blow for them as well. I have to say, though, the shooting combination of Nicole Talliard and Elmere van der Berg was a revelation. Yeah. They are going to do some serious damage in years to come. That being said, they did struggle on the shot at times in the 5th-6th playoff, whereas Uganda shot at 87% overall, and it was only a 2-goal difference in the final score. So if they can just up those percentages, particularly for Talliard, then they'll be absolutely soaring. Pums Mawani as well was another standout for South Africa. She said that she has no plans to retire yet, which is fabulous, and she's in fantastic form. I think she was also contender for defender of the tournament, and I think she was unlucky to miss out on a couple of player of the matches on some occasions. But yeah, she's playing some brilliant netball at the moment. We also have to acknowledge the draw with New Zealand, which was iconic. It was a real masterclass in coaching from Norma for me. I thought that was sensational.
Yeah, and it kind of marked the start of New Zealand's decline, basically, in the competition. And, you know, the way she was talking afterwards in the post-match about how to break the zone, I was taking notes, honestly. Right? If I'd been England or Australia or Jamaica, I'd been like getting my notebook out. Yeah. But actually, when you think about South Africa as a whole, obviously the last competitions that we've had, the host nation hasn't won. And I think there was that pressure on them, but hopefully kind of from all of that noise and attention it will be a kind of springboard for what's to come for the future for South Africa. Like, obviously hosting their first Netball World Cup is not massive to be taken lightly. Like, that is absolutely huge. We also know, on the topic of springboards, that a sprung wooden floor will be given to each of the 9 provinces in South Africa so they can develop their professional league. And also, the president of South Africa promised a new netball arena for the country in his speech at the closing ceremony. So that will be amazing, will massively increase the amount of international competition they're allowed to hold here. And I think that, you know, that can only be a great thing for South Africa.
Yeah, the way that the arena erupted when he said that, honestly, spine tingling. It was amazing.
Next up then was Uganda, who finished in 5th, which was 2 higher than their last Netball World Cup finish. I mean, what an amazing finish for them. No doubt the loss to South Africa on day 7 of the pool stages by 2 goals will have stung, as they knew they could have taken it. That game was theirs to win at points. And I know it's gutting for South Africa being the host nation and not finishing in line with their rankings, but you can't help but be delighted for Uganda. They do so much. Like, honestly, those interviews talking about what it's like for them, you know, playing at home and the struggles that they have to go through, the fact that they're able to perform is incredible. And Margaret Bagala was a standout for them. By the end of day 8, she was 2nd in the leaderboard for goal assists, 5th for feeds into the circle, and she just played so many minutes for Uganda when she was well enough to. I don't know if everyone actually knows this, but she was unwell. She had malaria during the competition and couldn't play all the games, but poured her heart and soul into that last game. And I mean, obviously questions to be asked about whether she should have played, you know, from a player welfare perspective, but Fred just said she couldn't not play. She would insisted. She made herself play despite all of that. And, you know, I think Choluk's been outstanding. There was a lot of talk about how many players, from us particularly, about how many players Uganda had lost. And I think that they've proved that, you know, that they can still stand up without some of those key names.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we've said this before, but I really think it bears repeating. Coach Fred Maguire was saying in various post-match interviews that they play exclusively on tarmac or grass, okay? Tarmac or grass. They're not playing on proper netball courts. They don't have standard match balls. So you can't help but think of what could be if they had even a fraction of the funding. But it was really interesting. There was a bit of a call to arms from Mary Choluk in the post-match interview after they won against South Africa, where she said, you know, we've performed, we've done our job as players and coaches. Ugandan government is now up to you to support us. And I was just like, yes, Mary.
Yeah, 100%. And I know the Uganda government have been giving some support to the team, but that needs to be increased. You know, they're so successful. They've just finished 5th in a world competition. That, you know, that's incredible. And what that could do for the country, not just for netball in the country, but also for, you know, women's equality in Uganda, which is obviously a big problem. There's so much opportunity there. I just really hope they can capitalise on it.
Yeah, could not agree more. And on the flip side, from great performance to a not so great performance, we had New Zealand in 4th place, which is obviously 3 below their last Netball World Cup finish. They were champions in 2019. It's the first time they haven't medalled, and it's their worst ever finish at a Netball World Cup.
Yikes. That is pretty bad, isn't it?
Pretty bad.
But then you think the standard of the competition has raised. I think it's more that New Zealand hasn't necessarily raised with it this time, but it's pretty damning in terms of the, in comparison to their previous history.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if we look at the bronze medal match, this game was slightly more edgy than the gold medal match, given the scoreline was significantly closer. But I just never really felt like Jamaica were in any danger. New Zealand didn't really pose too much of a threat. I don't know if that was maybe a little bit harsh, I'm not sure.
I was always just waiting for them to come out with it.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
And I think for New Zealand, the bronze medal match was kind of a summary of their tournament as a whole for me. They just looked a little bit out of sorts at all times. And I really do think that the loss of grace can't be understated for them. I don't think they were able to bounce back to the extent that they wanted to. They were also very, very unlucky to lose Gina Crampton to injury right at the start of the game, which undoubtedly unsettled them. They actually didn't win a single quarter in the bronze medal game. They only tied the second. And I think the key thing is that Jamaica were able to have 2 runs of goals. They had 1 run of 5 in the first half and 1 run of 6 in the second. And that really gave them momentum to kind of just take it away. Whereas the biggest run that New Zealand ever had throughout the entire game was only 3 goals. They just couldn't turn the tide. And I would question, who am I to question Dame Knowles? But I would sort of pose some questions to the timing and the choice of changes that were made by her in this match. I would have loved to have seen a Watson jury circle with Berger out the front and then Hef in C, because their gain to goal rate was pretty good at 78%, but they just couldn't win themselves enough ball. And Jane Watson is just an absolute menace.
Yeah, I really was confused that she was only injected in for the last 3 minutes of the England game and the last 4 minutes of this game. Mm-hmm. I would have brought her on at goal defence.
Yeah. 100%.
If you want to keep Kelly Jury out there with those arms getting in the way of everyone and rattling Fowler at times, then absolutely by all means. But they needed a change. I think Carricker was getting pinged out of the game. I think they could have shunted everyone forwards, put Berger out of wing defence where she's so lethal. But there was some strange choices from New Zealand in terms of the personnel changes in this tournament. I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, with Knowles in terms of the renewal of her contract. I think she's contracted till the end of November or till the series in November. So we will have to wait and see on that front. But yeah, overall disappointing with them. My heart broke for Kelly Jury in the post-match interview when she said she felt that they'd let a lot of people down. But I do think what Amelia Ann has also said in the post-match about it not being like 2018, where there was a complete kind of crash of culture and ethos and everything kind of went completely wrong. From this side, they're all still on board, but it's more about the performance aspect of it rather than the culture. And I have to say, what I love particularly about New Zealand, probably more so than any other teams, is the openness and the self-reflective ability that they have to be we didn't perform well enough on the day, we didn't do X, Y and Z, our opponent did A, B and C against us and they were better on the day. And they're so good at being able to acknowledge their own pitfalls and then go away and work on them for the future. Yeah, could not agree more. Next up then, Jamaica, who finished in 3rd, 2 better than their last Netball World Cup finish. They actually generally haven't performed well in Netball World Cups. They perform much better in Commonwealth Games, and it was actually just 1 place below their obviously silver Commonwealth Games finished last year. After quite an uncharacteristically quiet semi-final defensively, I did think the bronze medal game was much more of a display of the real Jamaican strength, that we know that they can put out. Jodie Ann Ward was a beast in this game, was playing with such heart and passion. I was really impressed as well with Jamaica's midcourt. Prior to the semi-final, they had 2 players in the top 10 for goal assists in Williams and Dixon Rochester. And I thought they really stood up, given that Fowler looked somewhat out of sorts for the first half of this game. And I think obviously not making gold is disappointing for Jamaica, but it just shows how far they've come, that they are well in that conversation and they weren't satisfied with the silver last year. Yeah, I completely agree. And I thought this game was fascinating from a Jamaican perspective because we rarely see Janelle Fowler rattled. But in that first half, we were watching it and we're like,
what was she doing? Like, some of the spacing that she had was just really unusual and uncharacteristic for her. But I think, thank goodness, that the defensive end sort of came back firing after that semi-final, because they really won it for them.
Yeah, I was pleased that they were able to dig deep and finish on a high. I think they deserved it. They deserved the result and they deserved to be on the podium.
Yeah, completely agree. And speaking of being on the podium, in second position, it is England. Woo! We finished 1 better than our last Netball World Cup finish and 2 better than our Commonwealth Games finish. This is our first ever silver medal and our first ever Netball World Cup final. Now, let me start by saying that I am absolutely thrilled for the girls for their history-making performance. You cannot deny that getting silver is a wonderful achievement. They should be so incredibly proud of themselves. But I think what stings for me a little bit as a Roses fan in the second half of the game in particular, it's not that we lost because, that's the nature of the beast. Someone's got to lose. It's that we didn't play even close to what I know that this group are capable of. We did not play our best netball. And actually, besides the game against Tonga, this was our most error-strewn game with 23 general play turnovers, 6 of which belonged to Imogen Allison alone. So we just can't afford to be that ill-disciplined or that unclinical in our game. And I think that was probably one of the biggest work-on points for England throughout the entire competition is the clinicality. Our gain to goal rate was only 50%.
Yeah.
So when we won that ball, we just threw it away. I think in terms of positives, though, outstanding performance and generally an outstanding tournament for Helen Housby, who, of course, did actually win Player of the Tournament and a Shooter of the Tournament. She is just on another level at the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, after such an incredible SSN campaign, she was Player of the Year at SSN as well, wasn't she?
In the Team of the Year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't believe the form that she's still in. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's been around the scene from an England perspective for so long now that you kind of, I think sometimes you forget how good she is. Like, you just get used to her. You're like, oh yeah, Helen shooting 100% again. Like, she was sensational. But I do think for England, I think it's more about when they can step up. We know they can, and there were times during this tournament that they showed that they can. But in those crunch moments, being able to execute and deliver consistently, and that's what the Diamonds did so well that we didn't really do.
Yeah, 100%. You cannot take anything away from the Diamonds. They were just exceptional. But I do think in the same way that we questioned some of Knowles' changes in the bronze medal match and the semi-final, or lack thereof in the semi-final, I do think there's a discussion around the changes that were made by Jess or not made by Jess. I think for me, Chelsea Pittman again should have come on after the first quarter, probably. She should have come on significantly earlier than she did. Fumi obviously had 5 minutes in goalkeeper, which is arguably her third position, was then taken to the bench, then brought back on later in goal defense. I don't feel that Fumi was really given the opportunity to shine. Obviously didn't take the court at all in the semi-final game, which I was really surprised at, but Fran came on and played a blinder, and we got so much firepower in that defensive end with Layla, Fran and Fumi, and I think possibly we don't quite know what the best combination
maybe
is.
Had the weapons and didn't deploy them.
Yeah, or maybe we don't know what each combination is able to deliver against what opposition. Like, we know the firepower's there, but we just don't quite know how to use it.
Yeah, and obviously with Jiva retiring, are we going to see more of Fumi back at goalkeeper now, which is potentially a shame? Or maybe we're going to see Layla drop back there, and be quite a dynamic, aerial goalkeeper. I don't know. I think that, definite question marks around that. But overall, I mean, England lost 4 quarters in this competition. They drew a number of them, particularly against Australia and against New Zealand. But I mean, losing 4 quarters in a competition, that's not bad going, is it?
Yeah, it's nothing to turn your nose up at either. Like, absolutely outstanding. So congrats, England. You've done amazing.
Finally then, looking at Australia, who are of course our champions for 2023, doing 1 better than their last Netball World Cup. And I just think, I mean, Australia's professionalism really shone through in the final in terms of their discipline, their composure, their execution, and just that high performance mindset, whereas England capitulated somewhat in the second half. And I do think the scoreline, when it started to blow out, that was painful, I think. Australia held all the top spots in feeds for this game and the goal assists. They also had 9 fewer general play turnovers. And I just think Stacey once again played a blinder from the bench with the injection of Austin and Garbin in particular. Although Garbin's accuracy wasn't amazing at 82%, she provided that real fixed target that enabled Kira Austin to be super creative out front. And she was fearless going to post as well. I love watching her. And I do think as well for Australia, they learnt the lessons from the loss to England, and Stacey has proven herself time and time again as a smart and tactical coach who knows how to bring the best out of players and how to bring players off the bench for impact. She used all their players at key times in the semis and finals, and it's the same as what she did against Jamaica. Lost to them in the pool stage, beat them in the final. Same as what she did to us in the quad series, I think 2022, lost to us in the pool stage, drew and then beat us in the final.
Mate, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, let alone Quad Series 2022.
But I think it is becoming a regular theme, and that's a mark of a very impressive coach who can learn and who's basically not going to get beaten twice.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, there are a lot of naysayers when she got appointed and a lot of questions asked around, is she the best coach? Is it the right appointment? And, you know, we were
naysayers, yeah, well. I think we have to own 100%, up to that.
100%. We were naysayers of England.
Yeah, where's her winning record? All of those kind of questions asked, and it's like, here it is.
But I think they were valid questions at the time, but, you know, good on her for being able to go, yep, I've got the goods.
Rose to the occasion, but, you know, performed so well consistently throughout the competition, rotated her side impeccably. Yeah, couldn't have gone better for the Diamonds.
Yeah, genuinely. And I have to say as well, you know, as gutting as it was to lose, how amazing for Ash Braz to be able to go out on a high. And what a way to experience the Netball World Cup. Your first and only Netball World Cup, and you're like, straight to gold.
Yeah, fast track.
Absolutely delighted for her.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So that's it.
Oh my God.
We've run through all our teams. We'd love to hear what you guys think about all our comments and whether there was anyone that you think we missed. Obviously, I think we could make a sort of 16-part documentary series about this World Cup in terms of covering each team. So we've just sort of whipped through everyone now. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this final episode of Qtr Time podcast and for joining us on our World Cup journey. Once again, just wanted to say how grateful we are to everyone for listening to the pod, interacting with us, sharing our content across social media, and generally getting in touch with us over the last 10 days. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, this is our final episode, but we will be commentating at the EMNA Nationals next weekend, so you can catch us there and tune in. Yeah, next weekend.
Is it next weekend?
Yeah, it's next weekend.
Oh my God.
I know. So do tune in on sideline.tv. Head to the EMNA website for ticketing and streaming details.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media at Qtr Time Pod for the latest netball updates. Do get involved in the conversation online by letting us know what you thought of the matches throughout the Netball World Cup and which players stood out to you the most. We genuinely love hearing from you. And actually, we've been slightly overwhelmed by the number of people.
Yeah, I'm really sorry if we haven't replied to you. We got so many messages and we tried to keep on top of everything. So please don't be offended if we haven't replied to you. Please do send your message again and we will try to get to them all. Maybe at the airport later.
Yeah, 100%. Like we absolutely love hearing from you. We love chatting netball with literally anyone.
And meeting some fans as well.
Yeah.
You know, some netball fans at the World Cup, handing out our stickers.
Oh, yes, those stickers.
And finally then, we would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review. It's the best way to support the podcast as it helps other people to find us. And if you enjoy listening to the pod, please let us know and spread the word with your netball pals so that even more people can get involved. We've grown massively in numbers over this World Cup. Huge. So thank you to everyone who's been sharing. It's really amazing. And don't forget as well to take advantage of our exclusive 15% discount with Lovell Netball by entering the code NETPOD15 at the checkout at lovellnetball.co.uk. And the discount code is valid until the end of August, so make sure you get in there quick, as that's actually not very long away now.
No, not at all. Take care, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.